Machine Duplication is a spell card which has the effect to special summon other monsters from your deck with the same name as the machine type monster you control with 500 or less attack. Because of how powerful the special summon actually is, cards which fit within the specifications of Machine Duplication get a huge boost for just being a target for this card. So in this list, we'll be going over some of the best cards which fit within the Machine Duplication specifications. And at number 10, we have Tuningware. This is a level 1 machine type monster with 100 attack, so easily falls within the specifications of Machine Duplication, of having less than 500 attack on a machine type monster. And it has the effect that it can be treated as a level 2 monster for a synchro summon, and if it's sent to the graveyard for a synchro summon, you get to draw 1 card. So if you use Machine Duplication on Tuningware, then you use the other 2 Tuningwares brought out for synchro summons, you basically get to draw 2 extra cards when those cards are used as materials, turning the already +1 nature of Machine Duplication into a +3, potentially depending on how you count monsters being used as materials as part of card advantage. Although, only eventually, and only if you actually are able to use the other Tuningwares. There is another similar card called Darksea Rescue, which is also a Machine Duplication target and also allows you to draw a card if it's used as a synchro material. What makes Tuningware slightly better is the fact that it can be treated as either a level 1 or level 2 monster, in addition to being able to draw a card when it's used as a synchro material. So if you try to go into a big synchro monster that requires multiple synchro materials, like maybe Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier for example, which requires at least 3 monsters as its materials, Tuningware can be used as 2 of them, and pretty flexible too, as it's able to choose what level it wants for that synchro summon. And if you're able to reset that card with something like Desynchro and special summon back the Tuningwares in order to do it again, you can just gain even more advantage, which is kind of how Tuningware was used in various synchro loop decks and a lot of synchron decks. However, all of the competitive decks that actually topped events with Tuningware usually played the card at 1 copy and didn't actually need to use Machine Duplication to bring out more than 1 of them. Which is why it's only the number 10 spot on this list, because it's not really a super competitive card in the modern metagame, and it wasn't actually used for its Machine Duplication potential in the best decks that made use of the card, and the Machine Duplication nature of this card was more of a gimmick in casual play. And at number 9, we have Springans Branga. Now, technically, 3 of the main deck Spriggan monsters all qualify as Machine Duplication targets. But of the 3 Spriggans that can be used with Machine Duplication, Springans Branga has the most use, with having multiple copies of it on the field, and getting multiple copies of them into the graveyard. You see, the big boss monster of the Springan archetype is their rank 8 Xyz monster, who's able to non-target destroy cards with its detach effect, and then it has a quick effect in order to tag out for a turn similar to Evil Swarm Thunderbird or Wind Up Rabbit. So, if you use Machine Duplication on Springans Branga, you can use them to go into Spriggan ships since they're level 8 monsters. Now, the actual effects of the card are that if it's in your graveyard, you can banish this card and 1 other Springans monster with a different name in order to add a Spriggan's card from your deck to your hand. And also, if this card is in your hand, field, or graveyard, you can attach it to one of your Spriggan's Xyz monsters on the field as one of its materials. Although pretty much all of the main deck Spriggan's monsters has the Xyz attach effect, where they can attach themselves to one of your Spriggan's Xyz monsters from pretty much anywhere you control, but only once per turn and on a hard once per turn at that. So getting 3 copies of Springans Branga into your graveyard with Machine Duplication doesn't really help it attach 3 copies to one of your Xyz monsters. Although it does allow more materials in the graveyard to use its graveyard effect in order to search out your other Spriggans cards. Especially since the whole archetype revolves around their field spell card, where they really want to search that out, which can be searched out if you use Brangun in order to search out Springans Watch or Springans Booty, as their field spell card allows them to cheat out their Xyz monsters by just discarding a Springans card once per turn. And because of how good their field spell card is, they don't really need to get their monsters on the field in order to go into their Xyz monsters, unless they want to go into both of them in 1 turn. Even though Springans Branga is level 8, and therefore harder to get on the field than the other Springans monsters, Spriggans are really great at special summoning the card, so that's not really a big deal. So, based entirely on just having better effects if you get multiple of them into the graveyard, I put Springans Branga on this list, but really, none of the Spriggans need Machine Duplications to do their plays, since a lot of their effects are hard once per turns, so I only have them the number 9 spot on this list. And at number 8, we have Gimmick Puppet Dreary Doll. This is a level 8 machine monster with 0 attack, and is kind of the main card that Gimmick Puppets revolve around, where they just try to get this card to the graveyard so they can use this effect every turn. As this card has the effect where, if it's in your graveyard, you can banish another Gimmick Puppet monster from your graveyard in order to special summon it. With the restrictions that it's a hard once per turn on this effect, and it can't be used for an Xyz summon except for a Gimmick Puppet monster. And since Gimmick Puppets love to go into their Xyz monsters, as that's kind of what their whole archetype revolves around, Being able to use machine duplication on Gimmick Puppet Dreary Doll can allow you to go into pretty much any of the rank 8 Gimmick Puppet monsters, grabbing 2 other copies of Dreary Doll from the deck. And even though you can't actually bring out more than 1 Dreary Dolls from the graveyard per turn, being able to get 2 other copies from the deck for 1 turn is still pretty valuable, which is further helped along by the fact that machine duplication also has 2 other good targets within the Gimmick Puppet deck, as it can also be used on Gimmick Puppet Humpty Dumpty and Gimmick Puppet Terror Baby in order to go into their level 4 plays, or just get more Gimmick Puppets in the field and the graveyard to fuel Dreary Doll. And since Gimmick Puppets actually benefit from using machine duplication, it's a little bit higher in this list than the previous 2 spots, even if Springans might actually be a better deck overall than Gimmick Puppets. And at number 7, we have Appliancer Socketroll. Socketroll is a level 1 machine monster with 100 attack and defense and has the effect where, if you control an Appliancer monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Additionally, if this card is on the field and another copy of this card is special summoned, you can then special summon a 3rd copy of this card from your deck. And both of its effects have a hard once per turn. Now, technically, all 3 main deck Appliancer monsters are machine duplication targets, and machine duplication is useful if used on any of them. The reason I chose Appliancer Socketroll is because that's the card that's going to be searched out the most with all of your support. And it's the card that's hitting the field more often than the other 2 anyway. So it's kind of the main machine duplication target simply because it's the most useful, even if machine duplication might actually be better on the other 2 targets. Appliancer Copybokal has a graveyard effect, where it can banish itself from the graveyard in order to allow you to special summon another Appliancer monster from your graveyard, which has the same name as an Appliancer monster on the field. So having multiple copies of Copybokal in your graveyard theoretically would mean you're able to fuel its special summon every turn. And Appliancer Breaker Bunkle has a graveyard effect, where if an Appliancer monster you control would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So having 3 copies of this in your graveyard would mean being able to protect all your Appliancer monsters 3 times. But Appliancer Socketroll is just the main card you want to search out with all of your Appliancer support. And if you do manage to have machine duplication in your starting hand, you're probably just going to be using it on Socketroll anyway, just because that's the card you want to get on the field first and is the easiest to get on the field. And at number 6, we have Cyber Valley. This is a level 1 monster with 0 attack and defense, which has 3 effects where you can choose to activate while it's on the field, where you can either banish this card and 1 other face-up card you control in order to draw 2 cards, banish both this card and 1 card from your hand in order to place 1 card in your graveyard on top of your deck, or if this card is targeted for an attack, you can banish this card in order to draw 1 card and end the battle phase. So the most useful application of Cyber Valley's effect is to stall out a battle phase while gaining advantage, and also its effect to draw 2 cards by banishing another card on the field. And one of the OG plays with machine duplication was to normal summon a Cyber Valley, use machine duplication to bring out 2 other copies from the deck, then banish 2 of them for the draw 2 effect, and leave the 3rd one on the field so it can stall out the battle phase on the next turn. That way you go +1 in card advantage while being able to make your deck smaller, draw 3 cards from your deck, and being able to be protected for a full battle phase. So it was like a pot of greed on legs that allowed some excellent deck thinning and digging for your other combo pieces. Although it was only a +1 in card advantage. So having to play a whole bunch of Cyber Valleys and machine duplications to maybe get that advantage was not worth it for every deck at the time. So the Cyber Valley machine duplication combo was only really played in decks that would already use machine duplication on some other target, mainly one we'll be talking about later on in this list. And once effect negation became more common, having a lone Cyber Valley in your side of the field wouldn't actually guarantee stalling out a battle phase anymore, as your opponent could use something like Break Their Skill to just negate its effect and then attack over the 0 attack monster in attack position. And with how much more effect negation there is nowadays, its ability to stall out a battle phase is almost useless against any modern meta deck.
The ancient gears are attacking. What do we do?
Oh, don't worry about them. They use ancient tech. We're safe here with NordVPN.
A VPN will stop the ancient gears from attacking us?
No, of course not. But it will allow me to change my region on this video game so I can play this as if from a different country, since we're currently in the middle of nowhere and this game is region locked.
How will this help us against the ancient attack?
Well, as confirmed by speed tests, NordVPN is the fastest VPN out there, which is great if you're using it for gaming thanks to their super fast servers, as well as the benefits of it preventing tracking of my searching habits with their next generation encryption.
None of this makes any sense.
You know what does make sense though? Go into nordvpn.com/TheDuelLogs to get a 2-year plan plus 1 additional month with a huge discount. It's also risk-free since Nord has a 30-day money-back guarantee.
Wait, TheDuelLogs? Isn't he the guy who makes those overly specific
Oh no, they've entered the building. Good thing I have the NordVPN app downloaded on my phone so I can be safe on the go. Check out the link in the video description for more details. Protect your privacy online today. And at number 5, we have Ancient Gear Gadget. This is a level 4 monster with 500 attack, and it has the effect where, when this card is summoned, you can declare one card type. In order to make it so that if your monsters declare an attack this turn, your opponent can't activate either monsters, spells, or trap effects until the end of the damage step. So it basically gives all your monsters this turn a semi-ancient gear-like effect when they're attacking. Its other more useful effect, for this video anyway, is once per turn you can declare a Gadget monster's name, in order for this card's name to become that monster's name until the end phase. So what you could do is just declare either red, green, or yellow Gadget as its name, then use machine duplication on it in order to special summon the other 2 monsters from your deck, and then those 2 new Gadgets gets to search out 2 cards, giving you an immediate +3 in card advantage, even though the other 3 Gadgets don't have less than 500 attack. They don't need to in order to be targets for machine duplication to be special summoned from the deck. The only monster that needs to have less than 500 attack is the monster you initially target with the effect, and not the monsters that are special summoned from the deck. So being able to go +3 with machine duplication was obviously pretty good, and it saw competitive play once or twice for this exact combo. And at number 4, we have Deskbot 002. Pretty much the entire main deck line of Deskbot monsters have a starting attack point value of 500 while all being machines. So, pretty much all the Deskbots are targets for machine duplication, although some of them are better targets than others. And since I have a rule about only including one monster from an archetype on a list, the reason I chose Deskbot 2 over all the others is because it has a non-once per turn effect where, if this card is special summoned, you get to add a Deskbot card from your deck to your hand. Additionally, it has an effect where it increases the attack of all your other machine-type monsters by 500 except itself. A lot of the Deskbots increase their attack by 500 times the number of other cards, so you'll only be able to actually use machine duplication on a lot of the other targets during your first turn, before you have anything set up. Whereas Deskbot number 2 most likely will always have 500 attack, so it's much easier to have it as an option for machine duplication. And when you use it on Deskbot 2, you go +3 in card advantage immediately, just like in the previous example with Ancient Gear Gadget, except you get to search out a more variety of cards rather than just one specific gadget. So it's just better to use on Deskbot number 2. Of course, you also have the option to just use it on any of your other Deskbots, so it kinda seems as if Deskbots were created to be used with machine duplication anyway, which is probably why Deskbot number 2's effect fits so perfectly with it in order to gain as much advantage as possible. And at number 3, we have Cyber Dragon Core. This card has 3 effects and only 400 attack on machine-type monster. Its first effect is that its name becomes Cyber Dragon while it's on the field or in the graveyard. If this card is normal summoned, you get to add a Cyber Spell or Trap card from your deck to your hand. And if this card is in your graveyard and you meet the conditions where you control no monsters and your opponent controls at least one, you can banish this card from your graveyard in order to special summon a Cyber Dragon monster from your deck. So, Cyber Dragon Core is really good at searching out your other playmakers from the deck, and of course its graveyard effect to bring out any of its monsters from the deck. And it also doubles as one of the best targets for machine duplication, because if you use machine duplication on Cyber Dragon Core, you'll be able to special summon out the 2 other level 5 Cyber Dragon monsters from your deck, which will allow you to go into your rank 5 Xyz plays of an eventual Cyber Dragon Infinity, rather than bringing out 2 other Cyber Dragon Cores, since it's the same case as Ancient Gear Gadget, where the initial target of the machine duplication has less than 500 attack, but the targets from the deck don't need to meet the same requirements. And since it special summons the monsters of the same name, and Cyber Dragon Core's name is always the same as a level 5 monster with 2100 attack, it's just going to bring out those 2 other cards instead. So machine duplication is pretty regularly played with Cyber Dragons because of the effortless +1 in card advantage it provides while setting up your board. Especially since they have 2 other Cyber Dragon monsters that meet the same conditions too, who are also able to bring out 2 Cyber Dragons from your deck if they're targeted by machine duplication for the same reasons as Cyber Dragon Core, because they both share the effect of changing their name to Cyber Dragon while on the field of the graveyard. And all 3 of these Cyber Dragon cards regularly have seen play in Cyber Dragon decks, and regularly hit the field pretty early on in their combos, so machine duplication is kind of a no-brainer inclusion within Cyber Dragon decks. And in fact, Cyber Dragon decks are probably the only competitive deck that still uses machine duplication in the modern day, and Cyber Dragons don't really see very much competitive play. Machine duplication is so strong of a card that they really try not to allow archetypes to work well with it. And at number 2, we have Card Trooper, the original card which broke machine duplication. Card Trooper is a level 3 machine type monster with only 400 attack that has the effect where you can mill the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard in order to increase the attack of this monster by 500 times the number of cards sent until the end of the turn. So basically it can become a 1900 attack beat stick when it uses its effect. Additionally, if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you get to draw 1 card. So with the initial summon of Card Trooper, it's a viable target for machine duplication to pull out 2 other Card Troopers from your deck. and none of the effects of Card Trooper are hard once per turns. So you could use all 3 copies of Card Trooper in order to mill 9 cards from your deck and have 3 1900 attack beatsticks on your side of the field, which was a much bigger deal in 2007 when this card first came out. In addition to the fact that you would eventually draw 3 cards once all of those Card Troopers were destroyed. But on top of the inherent advantage that just having 3 Card Troopers on the field provided, there's also the fact that you got to mill 9 cards from your deck, which was an incredible amount. Even back in the day when graveyard effects weren't super valuable, Card Trooper saw all kinds of play because there were some graveyard strategies. Namely, sending a whole bunch of cards from your deck to the graveyard so that you could eventually bring out Dark Magician of Chaos in order to search out Metamorphosis, to turn it into a Cyber Twin Dragon, and attack twice with limited removal, and maybe some of your Card Troopers that were still in the field who would also be boosted for way more than 8,000 points of battle damage. And using the Card Trooper engine was called the Troop Dupe Scoop. It was such a popular engine that it received its own little deck nickname. Eventually, Card Trooper was limited to 1 copy specifically so you can no longer use it with machine duplication. And Card Trooper continued to see competitive play even after its limited status for years, just to give a little indication of how good the card was even at just 1 copy, and not cheating 2 extras from your deck. Mainly because Card Trooper was just an excellent way of milling cards to the graveyard while drawing a card afterwards. And it was an excellent target to have in your graveyard if your opponent was trying to blind MST your Call the Haunted, since you could just chain it in order to bring back Card Trooper who would immediately be destroyed and draw you a card. Even though Card Trooper was limited for most of its life on the ban list, it saw an incredible, long, successful history of competitive play, only really dropping off in the last couple of years. In 2018, the card was finally unlimited because the game definitely shifted past the point where Card Trooper is a meta staple anymore. Being able to mill 9 cards with the Card Trooper combo is still good in the modern game even today, but it's just a little bit too clunky to set up in a modern meta deck. And at number 1, we have SPYRAL Quick-Fix. This is a level 1 machine type monster with 500 attack that has the effect where it can search out a Spiral Gear card from your deck on its normal or special summon. A search effect which is not once per turn. Additionally, if this card is in your graveyard and you control a Spiral Super Agent, you can discard 1 card in order to special summon it, but it will be banished when it leaves the field. So immediately upon summoning SPYRAL Quick-Fix, it's a +1 in card advantage. And even its graveyard effect is a +1 in card advantage because you're trading 1 card in your hand for 2 cards, as you get SPYRAL Quick-Fix on the field, and you also get to search with its effect. So once you throw machine duplication into the mix, this card becomes a +7 in card advantage potentially. Because immediately it's a +1 for using it a single time because machine duplication itself is already a +1, and all of the SPYRAL Quick-Fixes are another +1. And then all the SPYRAL Quick-Fixes can use their graveyard effects to bring themselves back for an additional +1 each, before finally all 3 of them might be banished for whatever link plays you use them for. So while the combos with Card Trooper was only a potential +1 in total card advantage, not counting the advantage you might gain for milling 9 cards, and going into Deskbot number 2 was only a +3, SPYRAL Quick-Fix's potential +7 was obviously a little bit ridiculous in comparison. And one of the Spiral Gear cards you could search out, Spiral Gear Drone, is also a machine duplication target that also has a +1 effect from the graveyard. So the potential advantage of SPYRAL Quick-Fix is on the same level as something like Spellbook of Judgment, one of the most powerful singular cards ever printed in the game. But only with machine duplication. It's still not on the same level as Spellbook of Judgment since it needs 2 cards to mimic its effect, but if anything can get close to Spellbook of Judgment with only 2 cards, that's pretty good. And the funny thing about SPYRAL Quick-Fix is that it's not even the best card in its own archetype. When they were at full power, Spirals were one of the few tier 0 decks in the game's history. And in fact, at full power, with all of its pre-erotic cards, a Spiral deck is probably one of the best decks in the game's history. If you were to have a ban list cup, battling all of the best decks in the game's history against each other, while allowing them to use modern staples, a full-powered Spiral deck might destroy all of the competition, because the +7 with SPYRAL Quick-Fix and machine duplication was just an option to a deck that's already strong without it. Well, unless everybody else is running Droll and Lockbird anyway, that kinda shuts down the deck pretty hard. So, SPYRAL Quick-Fix was limited on the ban list to stop its machine duplication potential, and it stays limited even to this day. So SPYRAL Quick-Fix is easily number 1 card on this list. None of the other cards even come close to potential with machine duplication. Alright, and that's the list. If you know of any other machine duplication targets that should have definitely been in the video that I may have missed, or have any other weird ideas just like this one, as this was a suggestion from a previous video, I'd love to hear about those things down in the comments. Pretty much all of the weird ideas come directly from comments in previous videos, and since they allow me to talk about a lot of lesser known cards, I'm always a fan of making these types of videos.